I am here with Peter Lavelle, host of RT's Crosstalk. Peter, we had Putin gave the address to both houses of parliament, to both houses of government. It was a fascinating address. He does it every year, and he always has a lot to say, a lot of interesting things to say. Peter, you're in Moscow. You understand exactly what's going on. What is going on this year with Putin's address to the government?
Well, I would say 7/8 of it was about domestic issues, not surprisingly. Putin essentially told both houses of parliament that they need to get their act together. He was very blunt. He's 15% of school children go to school in the cold. That needs to be addressed. It's a shame. It's a blemish on the country, and he wants that done. And he talked a lot about other infrastructure. Russia is spending money on infrastructure and has actually cut its defense budget. But the 1/7 that everybody outside of Russia took attention to was foreign policy, and specifically about Russia's defense. And we've had many videos about the INF treaty that the United States walked away from. Russia has mirrored that. If you don't want to parlay, then we're not going to do it either. And he warned that any perceived aggression in deploying intermediate missiles into Europe directed at Russia will be mirrored again. But Putin made it very clear that not only Europe, but the originators, the controllers of those missiles would be targeted as well, which of course means the United States. Now, the media, whatever coverage it got, it was Putin's aggression. No, it was all about defense. If you're going to threaten us, we will react appropriately. One of the things that was quite interesting is that someone made a reference. Putin said, referred to the Europeans without actually saying it by name. He called them little pigs oinking along, meaning, yeah, he did. Everybody's ears, everybody got a chuckle out of that. It was a drop of Khrushchev right there, and Khrushchev would be quite bellicose. But basically, Putin was sneering at them because, it's you're working against your own best interest. I mean, get your head around that. I mean, well, of course, at first, it was back in December, the Germans and other Europeans are saying, well, we got to take a look at this. This is a long-standing treaty. Oh, but by the middle of February, everybody was online in, following orders here. When it's about their own national defense, it's really quite incredible. And what they do is they make themselves a target. Okay, and Russia is not going to compromise on its sovereignty and its territory. And if you want to up the ante, fine. But actually, in Moscow, within the military ranks, a lot of them are saying, "Hey, great! All right, we've always wanted to have these missiles. Okay, now we can do." See, there's this law of unintended consequences. I mean, number one, people like Bolton and Pompeo, they're interventionists first, okay? And having a treaty with Russia of this magnitude means, in their mind, giving credibility and parity with the United States and Russia. That's something they cannot accept because that's their exceptionalism. No, they don't want any treaties that can impede American unilateral action. Okay, and that creates a much more dangerous world. Now, what Putin was talking about, the new technologies, we had this, I think, last January, I think it was, they were all defensive in capacity, okay? And what this is going to do is we're going to have more nuclear submarines being deployed because this is one of part of the three-element land, air, and sea defense, and it forces an arms race. And the difference is here is that they think, the arms race destroyed the Soviet Union. No, that's another Western triumphant myth. Okay, it wasn't that. It was a lot of other reasons, but it really wasn't that. But it's far less expensive to have a defensive posture than an offensive posture. So I'm just going to kind of make up the numbers here. For every $100 the U.S. will spend on offense, Russia will spend $5.
Right.
Okay. So, I mean, Russia has no territorial ambitions. It does. It's not into the forced regime change game. If you look, this is Russia is always reacting to outside aggression, and most of it is being directed towards Russia. So, what do you expect? Russia not to respond to this? And one of the interesting things that I think, and a gentleman named Gordon Hahn, I'll send you the link and you can take a look at it. This is really the end of, we really have reached the point where the end of Russia's attempt at a integration into the West. It's been a 300-year process. There's been a lot of ups and downs, but basically, the Russian political elite has had enough. There's still liberals there that still hope and pray at night that that we can become friends with the Americans. The fact is, the Americans don't want to be friends with the Russians, okay, at all. All right, either my way or the highway, okay, and that's not going to happen here. Russia has resources. It has ability to trek its own future, and that's exactly what it's doing. And I think looking at the address to both houses of Parliament actually said that we have the will, we have the ambition. Okay, we're not being forced. If you don't want to have a partnership, and partnership doesn't mean you have to be friends. Okay, they said I'll do this if you do that. We have a partnership towards one goal. Let's not go to war with each other. So it's this constant barrage, and I've seen changes of opinions here. People have just had enough. Like I've said before, all you have to do is take the bellicose language of the Pompeos and Bolton and put them on, have a voiceover in Russian. But these are their words. This is what they think of you. This is what they think of your country, and they put it on the newscasts every single night. So I mean, their words is Russia's most powerful soft power. It's amazing.
Yeah, and the most interesting part about it all is that Russia has, with the sanctions, Russia has successfully decoupled from the Western system, and they're moving away from it at a faster pace. And this arms race, which is a very interesting point, and you brought back the Cold War and the end of the Soviet Union. This arms race is not going to be funded with debt. It's not going to be funded with borrowing. And talk a little bit about that, about Russia's position economically in order to continue its defensive posturing.
Well, you bring up such a really good point, because Russia really has very little debt to speak of. Okay, it doesn't print money. It doesn't export inflation. It is the 1990s was such a difficult time where Russia went deep into debt. Right. It was on its knees. I remember in 1998 when I was working at Alpha Bank. I mean, when they got that $6 billion emergency relief from the IMF. Think of the size of this country, $6 billion, and it was on its knees. Russia made a very concerted effort to be debt-free. Do you know that at the end of the Soviet Union, all of Russia's external debt was put into one basket? It was called the Paris Club. And in the early 2000s, Russia was paying it off. And then they said, we want to pay it off, all of it now. No, you can't do it. You have to wait, I think it was to 2010 or something like that, because the creditors wanted interest. Right. The Russians say, we have the money. We want to get rid of this debt. And on top of it, Russia forgives debt all around the world. Again, part of the Soviet legacy. So these third world countries or emerging markets, they don't have that debt slavery issue anymore. So expanding infrastructure, refining defense without going into debt, and it isn't a bread or guns versus butter. Okay, it's like we're going to be very, very conservative on defense spending. As a matter of fact, it's down this year from last year, and the extra largesse that we have, we're going to build roads and bridges and hospitals and everything there. It's a quality of life issue, and that's what people expect. Okay. And that's what they're going to get. If you look at the first 7/8 of that speech, it was all about what the state needs to do or not do to get economic growth, vitality, and a dynamism here. And though it was very stern at times, but it's a to-do list. This is the bucket list. And next time I talk to you next year, I want these things resolved. Okay.
There it is. And you also said that what the Western media got out of this speech was the Russia as an aggressor. But, you made a very good point in that the whole speech was really about Russia looking internally.
Yep.
Looking at building itself as infrastructure, children going to school, all these things. And the two narratives are so different that it's almost impossible to reconcile them.
Yeah, well, all politics is local, okay? Because the way the way they report it in the West, it's part and parcel part of the Russiagate narrative, okay? They tried to steal our elections. Now they're threatening us with new missiles and all of that. No, if you take a sober look at it, I mean, Russia is acting in its own self-interest. That's first and foremost.
They invaded Ukraine. They're going to invade the Baltics. All the stuff that you hear over and over again. Putin wants the old Soviet Union back.
Right. While Pompeo wants to send 5,000 troops to Colombia. Okay, come on, you guys. Come on. So. No, they've basically they weathered the storm of 2008, the financial meltdown, where Russia got burned badly. Okay, and it's over the last 11 years is get away from those toxic financial institutions. We can do it on our own. And like I said, not going to go into debt, not going to print money. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. Okay, the whole thing about having debt is almost like a psychosis here. Okay, because Russia was so indebted, and because of the indebtedness of the Soviet Union, which Russia had to inherit, it's all been paid off. Okay, and over the last few years, inflation has been very, very low. That it was always a plague on the Russian economy was high inflation, and so now with inflation under control, the disposable income. You don't lose your disposable income to inflation, and that's a really big plus here. But it's no excuse for more dynamic growth, which is definitely needed. Productivity needs to increase in this country. That's one of their biggest problems, long-standing problems that they need to address. Productivity.
And the funny part, in closing of this, the funny part about Putin's speech is that all the policies that he's talking about are the exact policies that the United States has to implement.
Needs to address. And instead, they're what is it? What's his name? Smollett.
Smollett,
I mean, that's all they talk about these things. The
MAGA hats and Smollett, and identity politics, and smoking pot while listening to Snoop Dogg.
All they want to do is talk about the culture wars. Yeah. Okay. But that doesn't fix bridges. It doesn't increase wages. It doesn't increase security. I mean, when you think about all of the money, the $1 or so dollars, or up to $3 trillion, depending on who you want to ask, and they can't give him $5 billion to build a wall. I mean, the irony of it all. Okay,
build roads, build walls, build.
Look at all the money that the United States gives every year to Israel for its defense and fences, okay, and walls.
They just unanimously approved in Israel $5.8 billion, the exact amount of money that Trump was asking to build a wall. They just gave it to Israel. It's shocking. You listen to Putin's speech, and he could be giving the same speech to both houses of Congress.
Instead, they're talking about the most recent identity politics hoax, okay? And I'm sure there'll be one next week, and the week after that, and after that, okay? Because you're a victim, remember? No, we aren't victims by definition because of our immutable features, okay? We have to be, by definition, the oppressor. Like the Russians are always, by definition, the oppressor and the aggressor, okay? We live in such a Kafkaesque world.
Yeah, I mean, they're focusing, and now the Russiagate thing is wrapping up, but
oh my goodness, they're going to get something else. They can't let that go. They can't let it go, all right?
Trump is finishing up his 4 years in office, and he talked a lot about infrastructure. He talked about the wall. He talked about pulling out the U.S. military from places like Syria and Afghanistan, and we're closing in on 4 years.
Well, the only thing, this is how pathetic it is Trump is going to have to deal with Congress one more time in a couple of months, and that's going to be about the debt ceiling, okay? Other than that, what's being done? What's being done? when so much needs to be done.
Yeah.
And you'll never learn that from the media. It's just white noise out there. Okay? Virtue signaling. This is the era of virtue signaling when the middle class is dying. Nobody has virtue for them, I guess.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Russia, China, and a lot of the Eurasian countries in Asia just seem to be, business as usual, just plowing along.
That's the future. That the Eurasia is the future. I don't know. I don't care what you say. That's the future, because Europe and the United States are on this hell-bent path to suicide. That's what it is. It's a suicide. That's what they're doing to themselves. Yeah. It's a lost cause. Oh, and I want to plug my interview with Alastair Crooke. It's on RT today. It'll be on YouTube later today.
We'll put the link in the description down below.
Take a look at it. He's a great guy. He's a great big thinker. I really enjoy talking to him.
What did you guys cover in a short preview?
I just wanted to talk about the end of the unipolar moment, and basically the premise of the interview is that the unipolar moment is over. The problem is the deep state in the United States doesn't know it or won't acknowledge it, and that's why we have this really. And I talk about, excuse me, also the Thucydides trap, and traditionally you have a power, you either to a rising power, you accede to it, you negotiate with it, you go to war with it. But I said that even that doesn't work now, because if you're the exceptional nation, you cannot negotiate. So does this make a conflict inevitable? I'm not going to give you the answer. I want you to watch the video.
All right, link down below in the description. Peter Lavelle, host of RT's CrossTalk. Thank you very much. Guys, if you like this video, click on the subscribe button down below and click on that notifications bell to get notifications every time we push out a new video. Go to the Duran shop, pick up a t-shirt, help support the Duran, and in the description box down below, you'll find links to our PayPal and Patreon pages. And don't forget, you can get a copy of this video in audio format. Follow us on Soundcloud and on iTunes. Peter Lavelle, host of RT's CrossTalk. Thank you very much. Until next time, everybody, take care.